yo. So this is what I sense is happening at the moment. It's just this kind of realization that fulfillment can't be found in experience. So we're always looking for the next experience, and I'm still doing it. But it's lost momentum. So I'm still looking for the next experience to fulfill me, but it's kind of been seen that it can't, and the body's kind of relaxed, and everything's much more chill than it was before. But the mechanism's still playing out. But I'm reminded of Eckhart Tolle when I used to listen to Eckhart Tolle, and he was just saying that you're looking for yourself in experience, hoping to find yourself within form or the illusion or whatever. It's like you haven't got there yet, but the next experience will be the one to. And it's funny how you can see that quite clearly. How you're never gonna find fulfillment in experience, because every experience is fleeting and ends, and it's not that difficult to go, oh yeah. It's like, oh shit, yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking here, but yeah, the momentum is just completely. It has its own drive. So that's what I feel is happening. Is the realization that nothing is going to do it. But it's not a sad thing. It's quite a beautiful thing, really. Simply because it's so exhausting to constantly need the next thing, the next moment. It just takes its toll. So awakening isn't to do with someone who's awake isn't better than someone who's not awake. It's just someone who died, someone who got exhausted. There's no biggest prize for he who was most exhausted. You know what I mean? It's like, well, this guy got really tired. Let's give him a medal, And this guy's, this guy couldn't do it anymore, and his whole body just kind of collapsed, and he realized that fuck it, he couldn't be asked to seek anymore, and hey, winning, it's like, no, it's just what happens. It's just the seeing, eventually you see. Why do you see? Because you suffer. Eventually you see because you see more clearly, because it's life is suffering. I mean, that's what the Buddha said, right? Life is suffering, but seeking is suffering. I'm sure life isn't suffering, but I'm sure the lamp isn't suffering. I don't know how much the animals are suffering or the trees, but certainly seeking is suffering, right? So yeah, thankfully, suffering is there to incentivize us to quit, I mean, I always see my life as like I'm a mouse and there's cheese, but the cheese is electrocuted and I'm trying to get the cheese. And I'm just like, hey, it's like, fuck, I didn't get the cheese. And then I try again. It's like, well, I'll try a different tactic. It's like, maybe if I just go really quickly, it's like, fuck, I got electrocuted. It's like, well, maybe if I just, when the cheese isn't expecting it, it's like, oh, hey, how you doing? You all right? Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah. Oh, fuck, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, fuck. I'm not even going to try to get the cheese. Oh, Jesus Christ. Fuck. It's like, and eventually it's just like, you know what? Fuck the cheese, man. The cheese ain't worth it. Who needs the cheese? Fuck the cheese. That's the stage. That's the stage that I'm awakening at the moment. Is the fuck the cheese stage. I'm not very good with stages of awakening and technical terms and samskaras and what have you. But that's the vibe. The vibe that I'm getting personally at the moment is just, this is that fuck the cheese vibe. Who even needs the cheese, man? How good was the cheese in the first place? You know, that kind of thing. Anyway, it's weird. It's a metaphor that seems to fit my life quite well. And I grew up in France, and I love cheese. You know, so it's a good metaphor for me. Wine and cheese, yeah, 100% all in. So yeah, the next time you see an enlightened master sitting on a chair, everyone's praying to them and asking their advice. Don't look at them. Don't look at them as someone special. Just look at them as someone tired. They got tired. That's an exhausted person right there. Couldn't do it anymore, and then they went, "Oh shit, I don't need to do it." You know, whatever. They surrendered, and they surrendered unwillingly, because no one surrenders willingly. I don't think, do they? I don't think anyone goes, I will surrender to life. You know, I think it's always unwillingly. I think it's always against your will, because your will is to get something later. You know, it's going to be good. But look, these are just the opinions of someone who is still operating with ego and all this stuff, you know. But I like to make videos, and sometimes I get embarrassed about them, but I like to make videos now and express myself now as a apparent separate individual who's considering all these things but doesn't understand them, because there's a beauty in that, you know. There's a beauty. I feel like I'm accepting my humanness, and I don't feel like I'm trying to be spiritual, or like I mean, I'm completely confused by all these things, and all I can do is express myself in terms of where I feel like I'm at. And I think that's a good thing. I always maintain that, you know, if you feel like you're confused, just say you're confused, you know, just be confused. If you say, and you think, if you're enlightened and you feel like you're enlightened, then say you're enlightened. You're enlightened. You know, it's just like, there's no trying to be anything other than the experience as it presents itself, you know. And right now, I feel like a separate person. I feel like I'm separate from the bed and the walls, and I'm over here, and there are other people, and I don't see them as illusions or cardboard cutouts or anything like that. They seem completely real, and I operate within that system. You know, there's no pretense of understanding non-duality or enlightenment, and there's certainly no ambition to be a speaker and stand in front of crowds and be like, let me tell you, no, there's only an interest in truth and what's actually happening. And if I want to know the truth, I want to see the truth, I want to understand the truth. And if I can't, then I can't. And then I'll just say I can't understand it, or I don't feel like I understand. Do you know what I mean? There's this, I think that's the authenticity, you know, that's this kind of like, the lack of pretense, I think, is important in awakening. And I suppose I mentioned that because I've listened to a lot of stuff a lot of stuff, a lot of content, a lot of YouTube content, and people talking about non-duality and things. And the way it can go is that you listen to this stuff, right? Let's say non-duality, and you have a shift or an awakening or a transition or a loss of that sense of me, to a certain extent. And then what I started doing immediately after my initial first shift was just talking in that non-dual way, because I've been listening to these people talk, and then I'd have a shift, and I had a shift, and I thought, well, I'll talk how they talk, because clearly that's what caused the shift. You know, you listen to all this stuff, and then you have an awakening, and you've got all these words in your head and all these concepts, so you just churn them out and you start telling other people about them. It's like, yeah, it's all about this, the non-duality, blah, blah, blah. And then I started to do that for a while, and then I realized I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then after a while, I realized I've not even had the same shift that these people have. So you got to be careful. You got to be kind of you can kind of be easily hoodwinked into thinking that you've fully enlightened and you've had a full shift, when really Kundalini is just spiritual puberty. Someone said that. People call it that sometimes, and I think that's a great way of putting it, you know. And there is a tendency while going through spiritual puberty to think that you are going through full-blown enlightenment, and it's not. These things take time, and I know that the non-dual people will say there's no time, but okay, fine, these things take apparent time, whatever, however you want to put it, you know. And all these non-duality speakers, you know, they got to the place they are now, and it felt like it took time, you know. And some of them say there is no time, you know, but it took apparent time for the apparent individual to realize. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Yeah. So I suppose what I'm trying to say is just the best approach for me during this process is just to be honest with myself as much as possible. Am I being honest? Do I know what I'm talking about? Am I sure? And if I'm not, just say I'm not sure. And there's a lot of relief of energy and tension that can come from just saying I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And there is, in fact, a lot of beauty and relaxation comes from that, going, oh, Jesus, I don't know. And I don't need to know, you know, I don't need to know. It's like, so it's fine. It's fine. There's an intelligence, there's a process going on that is not dependent on me as an entity and an ego knowing what it's doing. It's not depending on me. It's not waiting for me to figure anything out. It's already operating perfectly. So that's my little drunken spiel, and it is drunken, so don't take it too seriously. But that's what's in my heart this evening. Anyway, muchos love.